Okay, what's going on, everybody? We are here, we're live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat, and then we can get today's stream started. And as I'm waiting for the ones to come into the live chat, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, because that's the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does, that helps make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get the notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. So please, that is very important. Also, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've been ghost watching this channel for quite some time now, I see you ghost watchers. I catch you guys all the time, and the guilt hits you. And when the guilt hits you, many of you admit it in the comment section. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do that for me. Do it for me, and do it for yourself. Trust me, you won't regret it. You won't regret it. So please do that. Pikachu, you're lying. You're definitely not a ghost watcher. Shout out to my man Pikachu, the greatest username in YouTube. And lastly, please share this video out on your social media platforms if you haven't already, because what that'll do is that it also helps me in the YouTube algorithm as well. And just to let everybody know that I'm currently live. Pikachu, you threw me off. I should have never acknowledged Pikachu. Y'all, if you're a regular to this channel, you know I just fumbled the intro. And I fumbled the intro because I messed around and started talking to Pikachu. Okay? But anyways, man, you all know what to do. Like the video, share the video out, and subscribe to the channel, right? Please do that for me. And let's get the show started, man, because clearly you can all see and hear me clearly as I'm fumbling over the intro. But let's get into it, man. I want to get into this right now. We're gonna do some migrant crisis talk. Thank you, Pikachu, for ruining my entire live stream. And you're laughing at me now. I appreciate you for ruining the whole stream, Pikachu. Thank you. But you all see what the title of today's stream is, man. You see what we're gonna get into. We're gonna talk about. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris's plan for mass amnesty, right? Citizenship for all of her migrants that came across the border over the last 4 years, as well as all other illegal immigrants that have been in the country over the last handful of decades, right? I want to get into that today. But before we get into that, we have to establish some of the basics first. We have to establish the basics, but I'm not going to go through a whole bunch of articles concerning the basics because we've done that already before. We're just going to list the three things off first. And what are those three things off that are the basics? The Harris-Biden administration created the migrant crisis deliberately. Upon Biden taking office, day one, he first put in order a deportation moratorium, stopping all deportations of illegal immigrants in the United States. He then repealed and threw in the trash Donald Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, which was a policy that stated in essence, you can come here seeking asylum if you want to, but as you're waiting for your court date, you're going to wait in Mexico. You're not going to wait here. And that pretty much alone is what kept all illegal immigrants at bay, because none of them were looking to spend the money that they've been saving up to come all the way to the border just to find themselves stuck in Mexico. And then when their asylum case gets denied, now they're in Mexico trying to figure out how to get back to wherever they came from. So that piece of legislation from Trump, was critical. Joe Biden tossed that in the trash and essentially put in place legislation that is the complete opposite of Remain in Mexico, which was catch and release. Catch and release, in essence, was the same legislation as Remain in Mexico, but instead of remaining in Mexico, you remain in the United States. And now here we are with the migrant crisis, deportation moratorium, the ending of catch and release, the ending of Remain in Mexico, and the reinstating of catch and release. That created the migrant crisis as we see it, as we know it, and as we have it today. That is what did that, right? And because of that, we now have issues like Tren de Aragua, right? A extremely violent Venezuelan migrant gang. This was an issue that we did not have in this country prior to Harris and Biden's migrant crisis, but it's an issue that we have now. As you can see here, I want to go through this article just a little bit, not all of it, but it's relatively short. This is just confirming what we all know to be true and confirming what I stated to be true just now, a moment ago, concerning Tren de Aragua, right? ICE confirms Aurora, Colorado gang members are in the United States illegally released by the Biden administration. Many of you are familiar with the current situation in Aurora, Colorado. Many of you just got done watching my video speaking on this situation and have now migrated over to the live stream. So thank you for joining me. Let's get into this very quickly, because then I want to move into another article as well. But I just want to hammer this point home. 4 Venezuelan national members of the Tren de Aragua gang arrested in Colorado have been confirmed as illegal aliens per a statement from an ICE spokesperson to Fox News. The Venezuelan nationals ranging in ages from 19 through 24 all crossed the southern border through Texas illegally in 2022 and 2023 under the Harris-Biden administration. All 4 were arrested by Aurora Police, and ICA has placed detainer requests on 2 of them. The 4 were arrested after a shooting which occurred near Nome Street apartments. Once again, I'll read that one more time because I fumbled it. The 4 were arrested after a shooting which occurred near Nome Street apartments, one of the apartment buildings in Aurora, which had been overtaken by armed members of Tren de Aragua. And for those of you who don't know, but obviously the overwhelming majority of you that are watching the video knows, Aurora, Colorado is facing a serious issue with this Tren de Aragua gang taking over multiple apartment complexes in the city. That is the issue that they're having right now, but it's an issue that they would not be having if it wasn't for Harris and Biden opening up the borders, literally creating the migrant crisis. And with the election underway, we're less than 2 months away now, technically less than 2 months away. What a lot of people don't know and a lot of people don't understand, this is why I recommended a very great book. Hopefully I remember the title of the book. It's called Overrun. The title of the book is called Overrun. You can find it on Amazon. It's an amazing book on the migrant crisis and how it was created. It's a book that goes into deep detail concerning the migrant crisis. Once again, if I remember correctly, the book is called Overrun. And one of the things that's discussed in the book Overrun is how knowledgeable would-be illegal immigrants are, right? Potential illegal immigrants are, how knowledgeable they are of the immigration laws in the United States while on the opposite side of the border, and how closely they watch the US election, right? And because they're watching the US election closely, just like last year, this year now, and I should just say, just like last election, they were watching it closely and they were ready to storm the border upon a Biden victory. Now, on the heels of the upcoming election on November 5th, with the threat, in their eyes at least, with the threat of a Donald Trump presidency, we can expect a huge surge of Kamala Harris's migrants, to flood the border the closer we get to the election. The title of this article right here reads, "Flood of Migrants Expected to Rush U.S.-Mexico Border Around 2024 Presidential Election, Border Congressman Warns." I want to get into this right now very quickly, and then we're going to get into Kamala Harris's plans to basically fast track everybody into citizenship into the United States. So let's get into this article right here very quickly before we get into Kamala's plans, right? What she has planned for illegal immigrants in this country. The article reads, "A tidal wave of migrants is expected to surge across the U.S.-Mexico border around the time of the U.S. presidential election," DailyMail.com revealed. There is widespread concern among U.S. federal officials that migrants waiting in northern Mexico will make their attempt to cross en masse as November 5th nears, just as Americans head to the polls. Federal immigration authorities have been told to prepare for a huge spike, Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez told the DailyMail.com on Tuesday. The Republican lawmaker, who represents over 820 miles of Texas-Mexico border, including hotspots El Paso and Eagle Pass, explained cartels that smuggle people over the border will actually advertise on the election. These criminal organizations are amazing at marketing. Imagine a criminal organization starts marketing the border is going to shut down because Donald Trump is going to win the election, Gonzalez stated. The article continues to read, "They will use that They will use that to vamp it up. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. This is a selling point. A potential Trump presidency is widely seen among migrants as limiting access to the United States and all the freebies that they get in cities like Chicago and New York once they get here. 5-star hotels, free housing, the works. Stuff that American citizens, don't have access to. But I digress. Gonzalez added, migrants could feel an urgency to get into the country before Trump takes over, assuming the GOP presidential candidate wins. Mexican cartels that make over $13 billion a year, according to the New York Times, moving illegal immigrants across the border, have spread misinformation that has caused chaos on the border before. Can we pause right there? The Harris-Biden administration has been netting the Mexican cartels $13 billion a year. 13 billion. That is crazy money. That is unheard of. You have Fortune 500 companies that aren't even coming close to smelling $13 billion a year. But by way of the Harris-Biden open border policies, the cartels are making that kind of money. Go figure. Harris 2024, I guess. Vote blue no matter who. Let's carry on. Several times last year, the thugs circulated rumors among migrants in the Mexican border city of Juarez, across from El Paso, Texas. In one case, they convinced migrants that U.S. authorities were giving asylum to any migrant who surrendered at a particular international bridge in El Paso. That resulted in about 1,000 desperate Venezuelans storming the El Paso North Bridge in March of 2023. They were met by riot guards from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, who shut down the bridge and stopped them. The article continues to read in closing, a second factor that could cause an influx of migrants at the border is Mexico. Now listen to this very clearly. Since January, the Mexican government has stepped up efforts to stop mostly South and Central American migrants traveling through its country on their way to the U.S. Pressured by the Biden administration, meaning this is something that he could have done the moment he got into office, but he deliberately chose not to. I repeat, pressured by the Biden administration, Mexican officials have set up checkpoints to find migrants Mexican officials have set up checkpoints to find migrants on northbound buses and trains and return them to Mexico-Guatemala border, right? So that's what's been happening. When you hear all this talk about how migrant crossings have gone down, all this stuff is at now record lows, all of a sudden, lows that we haven't seen since 2020. It's because the Biden administration finally, for once, has put pressure on the Mexican government to do something about all the illegal immigrants crossing through their country and headed to the United States. Once again, what does that tell you? That tells you that Biden could have always done this. He could have always put this kind of pressure on them, but intentionally and deliberately chose not to. And that is a fact. And like my man just stated, shout out to Sincere Love to God. Sincere Love God. Sincere Love to God said they gave them another route. Yes, Border Patrol has already stated that though the numbers have gone down, by way of Biden pressuring Mexican government to do so, right, to actually do their job and do their due diligence to make sure that they don't have illegal immigrants crossing through their country to get to ours, the Biden administration does have other routes that they're using to bring them into the country, right? They do have other routes, and that has been confirmed by Border Patrol on many occasions. So even these numbers that we see that are lower than usual, apparent supposed record low numbers, it's not really what it seems. They really just have another route to get in. But I promise you all, If Harris gets back in, if she gets back into office, they won't have to worry about taking another route because that border will be reopened again as if it was never closed. And once that border is reopened again as if it was never closed, what you're going to see from Harris is something unprecedented concerning a fast track to citizenship, decriminalizing the border, not creating any border wall, removing, right, eliminating all ICE detention centers, as well as eliminating ICE altogether as well. Now, that isn't something that I say. That's what she says. And that's what we're going to get into right now concerning her plan for the illegal immigrant population. Now, I would go to her website and pull this information up as it pertains to policies, but we all know Kamala Harris is not running on policies. Okay, she's not running on any policies at all whatsoever. That's why you can't find any of this stuff on her website. To the contrary now, or I should say, if we do a little compare and contrast, if you go to Donald Trump's website, he has an entire section of policies called Agenda 47. And when you scroll all the way down to the bottom of Agenda 47, there's a link that you could click on that leads you to a PDF file that elaborates on all of the points of Agenda 47. So he has all of his policies laid out. Kamala Harris has zero policies, but that's fine. We don't need her to have zero policies. Why? Because I have all of the video and audio we need with the words coming out of her own mouth that lets us know what's going to happen if she becomes president. So I want to get into that right now. Before I do that, I want to thank my man, Walter Wilborn, for being the first person to contribute to today's stream. Thank you very much, Walter Wilborn, for the support that you show to me on this channel. Definitely does not go unappreciated. And also to those of you who show love on CashApp, and those of you who show love on Venmo, I appreciate you guys too. Unfortunately, for whatever the reason being, I never get the notifications on my phone, but I do appreciate you all, even though I'm not able to say it in the middle of the stream. So I want to thank you guys also as well. Now let's get into Kamala's policies, right? Let's get into Kamala's policies right now. But once again, it's not her policies that are laid out on her website because she's not running on policy. It's everything that she has stated, past and present, concerning the migrant crisis and what she's going to do once she gets back into office. So now, for starters, let's get into the border wall. How does Kamala Harris feel about the border wall? Well, we all know that she put the red hat on and she said, let's make America great again, like TD, right? She wants to make America great again, like me. And she put the red hat on and stated that she wants to build the wall. But we all know that she's lying. We all know that she's lying. She doesn't want to build the wall. She never stood for that. She's just saying all type of nonsensical flip-flopping foolishness because she's a flip-flopper and that's what she does. Let's get into first how Kamala Harris feels about the border wall.
On the subject of transnational gangs, let's be perfectly clear. The president's medieval vanity project is not going to stop them.
This issue is about a vanity project for this president.
Right.
And it is a problem of his own making.
Right.
And listen, when I travel this country, folks have plenty enough problems that they need their president to focus on, instead of a wall that, by the way, because I was a prosecutor for many years, including the Attorney General of California, I specialize on transnational criminal organizations. Yeah. That wall.
She stay reading off a script, doesn't she? I mean, if you listen to enough of her speeches, enough of her talking, she says the same line over and over and over and over again. It is unbelievable. She never speaks off script. It is unbelievable. If you compare her to Trump Advance, it's amazing. These guys are always speaking off script. They're always in news conferences with a bunch of reporters. They're always doing interviews. These guys are always speaking off script. And then when you come to Kamala, she can't speak without stumbling over her lines. And when it comes to Tim Walz, I mean, he just doesn't really exist. He just doesn't really exist.
Ain't gonna stop them?
No.
I specialize on transnational criminal organizations. Yeah. That wall ain't gonna stop them.
No.
There goes the cackling. There goes the cackling. That's when you know she's full of it. Please excuse me For those of you who don't know, if you don't live in Los Angeles, some of you do, it was about 106 degrees today. And I'm hot, so I need to get my preacher rag right now and just wipe myself down. I have to do it. I can see my face shining all on the live stream. Lord have mercy. Okay, just had to get the preacher rag one time and wipe myself down, especially with these huge lights beaming down on me. It's like 3 degrees hotter in this room than it should be. But let's carry on. And shout out to my man AB Promotions, who said, "You better thank a TD for the live stream." I appreciate you, AB. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you for the support you show this channel. Now let's carry on, because I want to continue on with Kamala's policies, right? The next video that we're going to get in right now is what she's going to do on day one as it pertains to ICE detention centers. As it pertains to ICE detention centers, basically jail for illegal immigrants. This is what she's literally going to do on day one.
Hi, my name is Sally Hartman. I'm a volunteer with the Center for Worker Justice. Okay. I want to know, when you become president, would you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one. On day one. Please. And thank you for.
On day one, she's going to close detention centers. Not only is she going to close the detention centers on day one, she is also not going to build any type of border wall at all whatsoever. Also, as it pertains to ICE, Kamala Harris wants to abolish ICE. That is a position that she has taken in the past. And she also took the position of ICE being the parallel equivalent to the Klan. Yes, if you ask Kamala Harris, is ICE the parallel equivalent to the Klan? Kamala will tell you yes. I want to pull this clip up right now. We've played it before, as I've played pretty much all these clips before, but I wanted to have them all compiled in one stream for you guys. Listen to this foolishness coming out of Kamala Harris's mouth concerning ICE being the equivalent parallel to the Klan.
What we would.
Let me start it from the beginning. Give me just a second. And here we go. Also, hit the like button if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Please hit that subscribe button for me right now. Thank you very much.
Klan was what we would call today a domestic group.
Why? Why would we call them domestic group?
Because they tried to use fear and force to change political environment.
And what was the motivation for the use of fear and
It
force?
was based on race and ethnicity.
Right. Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
officers and agents.
I'm talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel between what is constitutionally mandated as it relates to enforcing the law.
Are you aware
protecting
that there's a
people's rights.
perception?
I see no.
Are you aware that there's a
that
perception?
puts ICE in the same category?
Understand, she's going to get destroyed by Trump in the debate. She's a horrible speaker and she's not a good debater. She messed herself up just now. I've explained this before. She meant to say perception. She messed up by saying parallel, because parallel is what she actually meant. But she didn't want to use the term parallel because she knows the blowback that could have came from it as it pertains to Black Americans being offended by you comparing ICE to the Klan. There is simply zero parallel connection between the two. So she meant to say perception, but she messed up because she's not as bright as a lot of people like to think that she is. And she said parallel. And we have this gentleman here who I believe is an ICE agent who pinned her down on it and now won't let up off the fact that she said parallel versus perception. And she's going to keep trying to clean it up by saying perception, even though she meant parallel. So now let's carry on with this kind of somewhat debate that's going on here that Kamala Harris lost immediately the moment she opened her mouth.
As the KKK. Is that what you're asking?
Let me rewind it just back just a little.
I see a parallel between what is constitutionally mandated as it relates to enforcing the law.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
I see no.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
That puts ICE in the same category as the KKK. Is that what you're asking me?
No, I'm very specific about what I'm asking you. Are you aware of a perception that the way that the discretion
I see no parallel.
I'm not finished.
I see none.
I'm not finished. I'm not finished. Are you aware?
She loves that goofy line. That's why she's so mad that the mics are going to be muted. She wants to say, I'm speaking, I'm not finished. I am woman, hear me roar. You won't be able to say that in the debate, though, unfortunately. You won't get that sound bite.
That there's a perception that ICE is administering its power in a way that is causing fear and intimidation, particularly among immigrants, and specifically among immigrants coming from Mexico and Central America. Are you aware of that perception?
I do not see a parallel between the power and the authority that ICE has to do its job and the agents and officers who do it professionally and excellently with lots of compassion.
Sir, how can you be the head of an agency and be unaware of how your agency is perceived by certain communities?
There is a lot of perceptions in the media and in the public that are incorrect about the agency.
But the perception exists, would you agree? Whether or not it's correct. And wouldn't you agree then that if that perception exists, there might need to be some work done to correct the perception?
I do want to advocate for the workforce, the vital public safety mission that they have to protect the homeland. And I think more people need to know how valuable they are to the society. So I agree with you on that.
So I understand your point that you want to defend the honor of the good men and women who work in the agency. And I appreciate that point, and I know the vast majority of the men and women who work in the agency do a noble and good job. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the perception.
You see how he flipped it on her and then got her to agree with him? Yeah, she's dead. The mics being muted was the worst thing that could have happened to her. She's going to look so foolish on Tuesday against Trump. She's going to look extremely foolish this Tuesday. But let's carry on. Because this is how Kamala Harris feels about the border as it pertains to decriminalizing the border. Okay, we've established that she doesn't want to build a wall, and she's not going to do that. We've established that she's going to remove and shut down all ICE detention centers. We established that she wants to abolish ICE, and now we're going to establish that she wants to decriminalize the border.
Very spirited debate on this stage last night on the topic of decriminalization of the border. If you'd be so kind, raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross a border without documentation. Can we keep the hands up so we could see them?
There she goes with her hand raised. There she goes.
I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. That's correct. That is correct.
Let's let her expand on that thought a little bit.
To somehow suggest that an undocumented immigrant is a criminal. Being an undocumented immigrant is not a crime.
I know what a crime looks like.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal, and we have to correct course in this conversation. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct.
She has held that position in the positions that we have been going through right now, literally for years. You saw her repeating that same line, past and present, for over a decade now. The moment she gets in office, with the swipe of, I wish I had that video. There was this really, it was this like real, like dictator like video, and many of you have probably seen it on social media, where she goes, with the swipe of my pen, I can destroy your life. And with the swipe of my pen, I can put charges on you. And with the swipe of my pen, I can destroy your family's life. Have you all seen that video on Twitter? That video looks crazy. That with the swipe of my pen video of Kamala Harris looks crazy. I think she gave that with the swipe of my pen speech when she was like the district attorney or the what's it called, the attorney general, something like that, of San Francisco. The whole with the swipe of my pen, I can destroy your life. It was crazy. If you're not familiar with the swipe of my pen video, you should go on YouTube. Or I'm sure you can find it on YouTube, but go on Twitter, now known as X, and look that up. Put Kamala Harris with the swipe of my pen. If that's not dictator talk, I don't know what is. Now, I want to allow Elizabeth Warren to speak for a little bit. I've read this article a handful of times, but I've never actually played the video on Elizabeth Warren discussing what Kamala Harris is going to do as it pertains to a pathway to citizenship, meaning mass amnesty bill, right? Whereas citizenship for all, as well as how when she takes office, what she's going to do is make it a point to fund all sanctuary cities and states. So she's going to pour billions of dollars into cities like Chicago and the cities like New York City to fund the resources needed to assist illegal immigrants get housing, food, shelter, clothing, everything that they need. Money is going to pour down and rain on these sanctuary states and cities. Meanwhile, the citizens of said population will get nothing. So let's get into what Elizabeth Warren had to say. I don't want to read that article. I'd rather Elizabeth Warren tell you herself.
Have more resources in the states and cities that are supporting migrants. And I believe
that was when she was talking about the money. That was when she was talking about the money.
The border to have more resources in the states and cities that are supporting migrants. And I believe we need to create a pathway to citizenship. All of that is a part of what we need to do for comprehensive immigration reform. Kamala Harris will work with Congress and get that done.
Pathway to citizenship. Kamala Harris will work with Congress to get that done. Pouring resources down by way of financial resources down on sanctuary cities and states. Kamala Harris is going to get that done. No border wall. Kamala Harris is going to get that done. Dismantling ICE detention centers. Kamala's going to get that done. Decriminalizing the border. Kamala's going to get that done. Abolishing ICE. Kamala's going to get that done. We've literally gone through all of the videos, in case you've missed it so far, where she literally said these things out of her mouth. And now we're seeing it come from her party members as well concerning Elizabeth Warren. And watch this video here from Chuck Schumer. This was actually in 2022. This is a video that recently went viral again on social media, on Twitter. But this is actually an old video. This is what Chuck Schumer had to say about the migrant crisis and illegal immigrants in 2022. It kind of makes you think and wonder whether or not this was all planned out, which obviously it clearly was, because I've proven that point a million times over. But let's let Chuck Schumer talk. I'll let him speak on it.
Now more than ever, we're short of workers. We have a population that is not reproducing it on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
He said for all 11 million or however many million that there are here, we're going to give them all fast track to citizenship. Everybody's becoming a citizen. What does that translate to? Votes. That translates to votes. And as it pertains to how many of them are here, that 11 million number is a lowball number that has been repeated over and over again for like the last 2 decades or a decade and a half. Obviously, they're going to make an update to that number now because of the migrant crisis. But I often discussed in the past years ago a Yale University study that came up with a more accurate number pre-migrant crisis, which was around, I believe it was 20 to 22 million illegal immigrants were in the country. This was pre-migrant crisis, okay? The Yale University study came up with the number around 20 to 22 million illegal immigrants were here pre-migrant crisis. Now, if we take the lowball number that we've been given by mainstream media concerning how many illegal immigrants have crossed the border since Harris and Biden took office, I think the number is between 10 and 12 million illegal immigrants. So we're looking at roughly around, what is that? About 34 million illegal immigrants, somewhere around that range. 34 million illegal immigrants in the country right now. About 34 million, I believe. 34 million. And what they want to do is fast track citizenship all of them, and rain resources, financial resource that is, down to all of them. They're literally telling you what they are going to do. Why people don't want to believe that is beyond me. But it's all been laid out right here for you to see. It's all been laid out right here for you to share with your family and friends. You can't say nobody warned you, because TD warned you. Just like Hotep Jesus and them say, Hotep's been told you. Well, when it comes to the migrant crisis, since 2020, TD been told you. I promise you, TD been told you. I've been told you. I've been told you, and I'm still in tolding you now. Okay, I'm still tolding you right now. All right, and hopefully the people listen. Hopefully we listen. And you all know what to do this November. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do. I'm voting for this guy right here. Okay, I'm voting for the greatest president for Black Americans since Abraham Lincoln. That's who I'm voting for.
I have been the best president for the Black population since Abraham Lincoln.
And why was he the best president for the Black population since Abraham Lincoln? Because he loved the Black population. I love the Black population. I've done so much for the Black population. Let's let him say it himself. Let's let the greatest president for Black Americans speak for himself.
I love the Black population of this country. I've done so much for the Black population of this country.
I love the Black population of this country. I've done so much for the Black population of this country. That's what I'm voting for. Oh God. Okay. That's what, and you all know what you need to do. Listen, a vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for illegal immigration. I've said it a million times before, all jokes aside. So if you love illegal immigration, I mean, you know what to do. Vote blue no matter who. But if you're voting for mass deportation, you know what to do. And that's Trump this November. That's what I'm doing. Hopefully you make the same right and proper decision. With all that being said, that does it for today's show, man. I want to give my thank yous before we head out of here. Thank you to my man Untried Genius for coming through as he always does. Thank you to AB Promotions. Thank you to Walter Wilborn. Untried Genius stated, have you seen the Freedom Tunes video, Kamala's Promises? It's hilarious how accurate it is. I got to look that up. I got to check that out. Freedom Tunes video. I'm definitely going to listen to or check that out. Thank you for informing me on that, Untried Genius. I appreciate you, bro. Shout out to Papa Onaya Shelley for coming through as you always do. Beware of the election season trolls, family. Thank you. AB Promotions coming through as you always do. How long before Chuck I can't say that. They sure do last a long time, though, don't they? They last a long time. There's a lot of listen. I can't say that, you know, how I want to say it, but boy, they just go on. I hope I'm around as long as these folks are. I'll say that much. Okay. I appreciate you, AV. Thank you, bro. Shout out to my man Saul for always keeping the lights on over here at TD Media Group. He said it's because Trump said Black jobs at the National Association for Black Journalists. It's because he said Black jobs. I don't know why people found that offensive, because it wasn't. It was literally the truth. That's something that I've proved a million times over on this channel as well. Once again, TD Ben told you. I've been told you. And shout out to my man DC Precise. He said, you better thank him for a Russian bot, because you all know that I'm a Russian bot powered by artificial intelligence and Chat GPT, sent here to create and push misinformation on the Black community to get them to vote for Trump. I'm trying to trick you guys, right? I'm trying to trick you guys into voting for Trump so that you can get body slammed with Project 2025 the moment Trump gets into office. I'm not a real person. I don't exist in real life. I'm actually AI. Remember that as you're hitting the subscribe button. Thank you all for joining me today, man. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel on your way out, and I will catch you all next time. Peace and have a great evening.